Okay, hi everyone. I'm Rebecca Jami with the Terra Group. Very quickly, our company is a holding company for a diverse portfolio of subsidiary companies. I act as the COO for one of those subsidiary companies called Real Strategies. Today with me is the CEO of another company, Jeff Kaplan with PopCycle. Our family of companies basically all works together to provide full service partnership with all of our clients across industry leading data. We do cutting edge technology. We have digital marketing services, production services, basically your one-stop shop. And we're super excited right now because we just launched our own DSP, and it's a beauty. So we're really, really excited about that. Michelle, did you want to say anything else? I can start with a question.
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
I mean, you had a great introduction, so thank you. Michelle, as I was getting to know you a little bit, your incredible career started in a STEM background with your formal education in mechanical engineering, and then leading you through what you've dubbed a road less traveled to leading global marketing and innovation at ETS. So as you were making that shift from STEM, what were some of the, leading your global teams, you had to create and foster connection between those teams. So what were some of your key strategies to connect those teams and to kind of create a strong work environment through a distributed team environment?
Yeah, I definitely thought about a lot of the learnings I had from a STEM background. Being a mechanical engineer, I worked in a manufacturing plant, actually, at Procter & Gamble, and took a lot of leadership lessons from there. Now, that was all very physical, right? You had to do work in a manufacturing plant, so you showed up every day. Definitely not distributed.
Right.
But then, as my husband said, I went to the dark side, to marketing, and he stayed in engineering, so that's why he can make that joke, I guess. And I think working at a global company and having that, running global brands, we definitely had to be connected to more than the people we were just in the room with across the globe. And I think, the strategies, and I've worked at a lot of global companies, Samsung, MetLife, Kimberly-Clark, et cetera. I've sat in the role and the position, I think, of being in the market, so being a regional CMO, and then, having a CMO back in the states that you reported to, and then vice versa, being the one here and working with people globally in the market. So I think the one thing, the one strategy I learned was definitely empathy and ensuring that you always put yourself in other people's shoes, right? And to look at the situation from lots of different vantage points. So that would have been like my answer, I think, up until COVID.
Right.
Right. And then COVID hit, and we all had to figure out, none of us are in person. And so, it's not the traveling around and seeing people and looking at people eye to eye and experiencing some of that. You had to come up with different strategies. And that's what I would call the real dispersed workforce impact. And so a couple things strike me on that. One is presence is still important.
Yes.
Right? And it may not be face-to-face presence, but it's definitely presence. It isn't calling in on the phone and, hitting the mute button and maybe you're there, maybe you're not there. It's utilizing the technology that we have to look people eye to eye and still make a connection and be able to, work across the miles. I think that's one. And I think the important thing there too is that you want to make everyone feel heard and feel seen. And I think technology can actually help us do that if you use it the right way. The other one is like actually being connected and listening. So I use skip levels as a strategy. You know, you think, oh my gosh, you know, I have a team of like 250 people, and I know other CMOs have much bigger, and you go, there's no way I could talk to all these people. I mean, that would be like my whole day, right? But you actually can, and so I chunk it up into quarters, 15. It's amazing how much you can connect and listen to what's really going on in the organization in 15-minute chunks. So, you know, I make that kind of a practice and a regular routine of connecting with all levels in my org. The other one, I think, is building strength as a problem solver. I think I love to solve problems, being an engineer. Right. But I love to help solve problems, not be the only one. And so I value like work sessions versus presentations. And we've really, in all of my teams, we've implemented that as a practice. What it does is it, again, allows people to be seen and heard and contribute to a conversation without coming and presenting to you and making you be the final decision maker, right? And frankly, it's a lot more fun, and it makes, I think, really strong connections for your team, because, you know, when you're in the trenches and you're like, in those situations where you're solving problems, that's where you realize and you feel like these are my people, right? Like we went through some stuff together, and
they have buy-in then.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
Because they were part of that session to solve that.
Yeah, and there's also like a level of formality that comes down when it's a work session and not a presentation, right? It's okay that people are coming in and saying, I don't know what the answer is, but here's all the work that I've done to think about it.
Right.
And then the last one I would say is, I don't know how many of you do this with your families, but we have forced family fun. And yeah, right. And so it's amazing though, when you force the family to have fun, you actually do have fun, and you remember
after the moaning and groaning is over.
You remember all of it. And so, you know, I do that with my teams too, and we do a lot of virtual things, you know, across the globe. So just this morning, I had my virtual town hall. And we did some forced family fun in the town hall across, you know, all those folks, which was fun. And then we do virtual socials too, where it's just getting together and chatting. Yep. And when I was at MetLife going through COVID, we started that. Every Thursday we had a happy hour. And we continued for 3 years. We didn't miss a Thursday because everyone had so much fun, and it was like user generated. Like I didn't run it. No, you didn't want to give it up. And then, you know, I think this is a really important topic to me too, because what we do at ETS is measure things. So you may not know what ETS is. Historically, it's been educational testing services, 75-year-old nonprofit, things like GRE, the TOEFL test, et cetera. And we've moved more into a pivot to transform the business into the workforce. And we don't stop learning, right, after education. And so we're using that expertise in measurement to measure skills that people might need in the workforce. And they do need in the workforce. And one of those skills, actually, is being able to manage dispersed teams. So we just launched a few weeks ago, actually, a product called Anywhere Pro. And you can find that on our website. It's a badge. And it actually is an assessment of how well are you placed to manage remote teams, work remotely, manage dispersed teams, et cetera. And so we feel like because that's such a skill, you know, people will want to be able to display that skill to potential employers, et cetera. And employers are definitely going to want to know, do you have that acumen to be able to operate in this modern digital world?
Wow, that's great. As well as strategies for leading distributed teams, let's talk a little bit about leading women in 2024 and beyond. As you were saying, as we all know, the workplace has transformed, and it continues to impact the way that we're working, but also what women want from their careers. So, do you have any specific practices that are effective in leading women today? And what can other leaders do to empower and support women in the marketing world, but also in other fields?
I know this has been a topic today, so
Yes.
I might ask you to jump in and,
Sure.
and help me share, some of the things. I honestly think that some of the strategies I just talked about are the ones that I employ because I feel that way sometimes, or I have felt that way in my career, and I've observed other women feeling that way. So that presence piece and feeling seen and feeling heard, I look for signs that that's happening, and try and pull people in if they're not. Just an anecdote, when I was in the plant, I think this was something that happened to me. We did all of our meetings online, right? So on the manufacturing line. So you stand on the floor, and when you're on the floor, you have to have safety-toed shoes. My hair is like up in a hairnet, not looking great, but whatever. You're out on the floor, and I was the manager of the team, and everyone else were pretty much men. And I'm 5'4" if I
Right.
stand on my tiptoes, and in safety-toed shoes, I'm pretty short. So guess what happened? All the meetings happened above my head, and I was like, and, and so I was completely out of the meeting. And so I look for that not only in physical spaces, sometimes, that all of a sudden you sit at a table and that goes away, right? Or you're on a video call and everyone's box is the same space. That still doesn't mean everyone gets a chance to
Right.
talk and whatever. So I
Right.
definitely do that. And then I also think I definitely try and listen. So in those skip level meetings in particular, and especially when, I'm with women or people that I know maybe don't have a big voice on the team, I don't say a lot. And I literally open the floor and say, I have no agenda for this meeting other than I'm going to listen to whatever you want to tell me.
Yeah. And I love that analogy because I am thinking about what we talked about earlier today. A lot of the speakers had really, really great insight on this. You're pretty much sort of, covering that same material, but I love the analogy of the physical space because I think that that's the key to leading women is to be the one that brings the box to the 5'4" woman so she can be at the same height.
Give them a pair
or
of
get them
5-inch
some
heels.
of those, yeah. But do the thing, in kind of that concept of, okay, I see that, I'm going to bring the box for her, and kind of help do that. But I feel the same. I kind of think of it as like a sponsorship. Like if you see someone on your team that's really engaging, but for some reason is not being heard, like can you grab their elbow and bring them with you so you at least get them heard and then send them, on their way. So, and speaking of sponsorship/mentorship, how do you think the role of mentorship could be structured to make sure that women have the success and are able to advance their careers? And if you have any stories from your past coming up from a mentor or any advice that you carry with you today. Really quickly, I'll share some advice.
Yeah.
When I was very young and working at my first job, which was fast food, my advice that I carry even today is, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean.
Your
so
kids
I
love
make
that,
sure
right?
I'm not leaning. I'm always cleaning.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good one. I like that one. Well, we were in a roundtable earlier today, and it reminded me of a good piece of advice that I did get from a mentor, which is, and I think it was brought up earlier today too, which is have your own personal board of directors. And I think, that you could go, oh yeah, of course I do. I always go ask so-and-so and so-and-so. But you need to think about, are those your friends? Are those the ones that are in your comfort zone? Or, when you really choose a board of directors, you're very intentional about who you choose to be on the board because of the different perspectives that they bring. And I think you should formalize that. I mean, literally tell people, I'm choosing you to be on the board. Will you accept that? Because it's a responsibility, and I think sometimes that's kind of the push that you need from a mentor to be able to hold up the mirror for you and not just tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
But I also think I've been blessed with great mentors, some of which I reported to, some of which I sought out. And a couple of nuggets probably stand out. One from P&G, she was my first boss that also had an engineering background, so she knew how it felt to go from engineering to marketing.
Wow, yeah.
And she always had this saying where she was like, and it sounds very heartless, but it wasn't meant heartless. She said, if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, we'd all be very sad, but we would carry on.
Yeah.
It's not all on you. You always feel, right, like if you're not here, things aren't going to get done, and that's not necessarily true, right? So it really is, the team that you build, the knowledge that you build around you, and so that's always stuck with me a little bit too. Like, you don't have to carry everything on you. I think reverse mentoring, super important.
Oh, yeah.
And believe me when I say, like, in those skip levels in particular, like, I definitely seek to surround myself with people that are smarter than I am, because you learn from that. My kids are my reverse mentors, for sure. Even I think a pivotal point in my career was that my son wrote an autobiography for me, basically, when he was in kindergarten. He drew a picture, and I was up in the corner in a box, and obviously he was in kindergarten, he couldn't write, and I thought, what the heck, that teacher?
Yeah.
And it said, there was a whole picture of him and his dad and a bunny playing catch or something. We didn't even own a bunny. I don't know why that bunny was in the picture. But I was like, what is this, Nate? What's this up here in the corner? And he was like, well, that's you, Mom, at work. And it did say Mom at work. And I was like, oh my God. And so, I think you take those, that wasn't true, but that was his perception.
Yeah.
And it really helped me kind of reframe and think, you know what, I need to be more present. Speaking of presence again, be more present and not always 3 weeks out planning. I think some of that reverse mentoring can be very, very helpful. My daughter loves to tell me everything I don't know, so
I can
in a very
relate.
demure way, she would say.
Well, that's great. And I think that just kind of from what you were saying, not to get too far in the weeds or anything, but I think as women, we put ourselves in some of those situations, like as in like another woman telling you, if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, but it's like you can't, there's something built into us that makes us feel like we have to, though, like somebody else couldn't possibly do all these things. So just, kind of a comment on that, and to learn how to do that and have someone else tell you to do that. Go ahead, it's safe, so.
Yeah.
What do you think, based on your experience with your teams, what do you think are the top 3 things women are looking for in their work environment today?
So, being data-based, I actually have some pretty interesting data to share with you.
Cool.
We did a study around the world. It was 17,000 people, 17 countries, called the Human Progress Report. And basically, we were trying to understand what are the barriers, or what are the factors first, and then the barriers of humans progressing and gaining prosperity. And it was extremely interesting. And one of the things that came up for everyone, and then I'll dive into some of the points for women in particular, was that over like 85% of people around the world feel like they have FOBO, fear of being obsolete. Things are moving so fast that they don't feel like the skills they have today are going to be the skills that they need in the future. And while that was, a common phenomena for everyone, what struck me was that women in particular didn't feel like they have the ability to gain those skills. And so I'll read you a couple of pieces. So in particular, women felt like they're looking from their employer to support their continuous learning. And, they wanted employer-sponsored training programs. So 40% of women said that would really be impactful for me to accelerate upskilling. They also wanted incentives to be able to do that and to be rewarded for upskilling. And then definitely, having the support having that employer support to upskill. So access to quality education was something that women definitely valued. Ability to learn new skills to improve job performance and as well open up opportunities that maybe they didn't know were available. And then the ability then to move up in society. And, I think across the globe too, women and in particular older women felt the most disadvantaged around the world of being able to acquire that prosperity.
Wow. It's really, really interesting. So let's open it back up to include everyone, not just focus specifically on women, but what actionable steps can just any individual do today to kind of contribute to this culture of empowerment and support in their workplaces for everyone, not just for women?
I think that being multifaceted in our skill sets is probably one of the biggest things. And I've always thought about skills as like a T. And so, I value breadth of skills because I think, the more understanding you have from attacking a problem from all vantage points, right, the better versed you are to be able to collaborate with people across the organization. But you absolutely need a few things where you're deep on that T part of, the line that comes down on the T. To be able to put things into action. And, I think I've been in personal situations where actually I've had a boss who said, I do not value that. I don't value that you have broad skills. I want someone who just is a line down. And I was like, wow, that seems short-sighted. But that's where the majority of the team all of a sudden was very skilled in depth, and it created a lot of silos, right? And I've shared this story before too, but when I was interviewing for this Chief Marketing and Innovation Officer role at ETS, I wasn't looking, and I actually didn't know anything about ETS or the education field or anything. And It actually was one, on top of the pivotal transition, and because I love transition and change, like I was like, ooh, that sounds fun. It was my boss, my CEO, who said, wow, tell me about your whole career. Tell me about all the experiences that you've had, and actually listened. And when I was done, he said, you know, Michelle, you're the unicorn I was looking for. And I was like, oh, what? Someone actually values that breadth of skills?
Yeah, right.
And I think, you know, when you are a leader that values that, you push people, or it's not even a push, you motivate people to go do new things that they haven't done before, or want to grow and stretch. And I've always seen lovely results from that.
Yeah. That's great. Just one question to put you on the spot, and unintentionally, but what is it about transition and change that gets you so excited? Is it because of your engineering and problem-solving desires and inner talents, or is there something else to it?
Yeah, I like to live life on the startup curve. So
Okay. Yes, I can relate to that.
I get kind of itchy if I'm in the same place doing the same thing for too long. And what I've been able to do, though, I think to kind of scratch that itch is, you know, find things that do need to be transformed. And those could be in your current role, right? Like there's another saying, bloom where you're planted. Like you don't have to move to actually do something new and different and bring something beautiful to it. A really quick anecdote would be, we do a lot of events, conferences at ETS, and that's been long-standing. You know, you go, you set up a booth, and you have someone talking, and, you know, whatever it might be. And when we did the brand transformation and launched in April, we didn't change the conferences we went to, right? We didn't change, we're going to have a booth and we're going to have people on panels or whatever. But we did change how we showed up in the world. And we changed the experience. And we changed the people who attended and were real brand ambassadors and what they could bring. And the response from not just our employees, but like from the people who are like, oh my gosh, you guys are this is like a new ETS. Yes, it is. And it was just beautiful. Like that's awesome. A transformation that, you know, it was needed, but like it's a lot of work to do and a lot of people to motivate. But when it really bloomed, it was beautiful.
And that was just in April of this year.
Yes.
So you're already seeing that. That's amazing. That's great. That's great. I think we are
out of time.
Are we wrapping?
Yes, we are at time. Thank you so much.
Screeching halt. Sorry.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you.